confidence isn't actually built from success. It's actually built from the rejections or the no's to the success. So
Ethan, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
no, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited. Like I always say, I'm super grateful to have a conversation with people like yourself, helping people, obviously helping myself as well. So just stoked to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you here. I'm really impressed and really think one part of your journey, as you mentioned, it was like when you jumped in, set the stand. It was like you quit doing what you're originally doing to go and chase your dreams and make it happen, which I think a lot of people can relate to. It. I'd love to hear about that story.
Yeah, so like I guess for me, it wasn't so much quitting a job or anything, but it was quitting the person that I was, and the habits that I had to create a new version of me, which wasn't aligned with where I want to head. So it wasn't so much a job or anything. It was more quitting, being the person that wasn't serving me and made me feel the way that I don't want to feel. I think it's always important. Like, how do you want to feel? How do you want to wake up each day? And I just didn't feel motivated or driven to make my life better or pursue what was actually for me. So I think that was the main thing for me, was quitting the person that I didn't want to be and obviously creating the person that I did want to be, and which is how I found obviously you guys and stuff like that you can facilitate that.
Yeah, so cool. So how did you walk me through the process of where you were and then what you did and then how you got to, who you are now and how you feel, how motivated and passionate you are about what you're doing. Cause I think that journey and that process is just really valuable to touch on.
Yeah, so it was after, so my whole life growing up, I was going to be a professional rugby player. That's all my attention and my focus was on, until 3 years ago, I had a shoulder injury, had to get surgery and a plate put in, which really set me back. And something that always stands out for me is like, I had my identity intertwined around being a rugby player. So I was literally just stripped of that. It's like you're standing there, you're naked. It's like, whoa, what do I do now? And that obviously started to create bad habits, drinking, drugs, partying on the weekends, all these distractions that at the moment, now that I understand, which I didn't at the time, was just all these things like soothing emotions and taking away from who I was, or I thought who I was. So that, I guess, destructive behavior and stuff like that just took me away from what was really my own purpose and what I actually knew, which was experience around fitness, performance, health, and bringing myself back to there was really that I was like, whoa, I've never felt like myself for a while, and this is where I feel like myself and I can provide value to others. So that was really the turning point for me. And it's always comes back to like when the pain gets strong enough to change, you'll make that change. And, the pain got to, strong enough that I could now see that I wanted to change. So, yeah, that was the main turning point for me anyway.
So cool. What do you think were the key lessons that you actually learned, which helped you switch over? What did you apply?
So like for me, I guess the first lesson for me anyway was just like understanding why I wanted to change. And for me, it was to live the life that I want to live. So that was the main thing that that really facilitated the change. And then actually finding the help, asking for help, which is something that I have never really been conducive to or been exposed to, which was like stepping outside of my comfort zone, is like being able to ask for the help and thinking that you could do it alone. So that was a really big breakthrough that I really understood, was actually when you need the help, asking for it.
Yeah, tell me more about that. And how did that make you feel?
Relief. Like, I think if you got like 25 years of just like being afraid to ask for help, or being afraid to be self-aware because you think that you're a bad person or you've done these things that make you feel a certain way, and having shame and guilt around that. And then being understanding, like, you can get help with that. You can ask people, hey, like, I feel this way. Do you think you could help me? Or just having a conversation. So it was really a weight off your shoulders that allowed clarity to come in. Because you have all this weight, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, just weighing you down. It's like you can't see clearly. And when you can't see clearly, then you don't know the actions or the steps you need to take to go towards where you're going. So it was just a big weight off my shoulders. 25 years of playing rugby, and the only thing you could think of was that you're going to play rugby professionally. It was like you could just sit back and be like, man, I can take that jersey off now and like hang it up. Like, I'm done with that, and put on a new one that is more aligned with where I'm heading.
Ooh, that's so cool. I'd actually like to dig a little bit deeper into the asking for help, because I think that's like such an important thing that a lot of us men forget to actually do, and forget that it's like a resource available. It's like, and you mentioned it was like, there's like a fear before even asking for help. Like, where did that come from? Was that like from your parents? Was there something, some negative experience that you had which prevented you from getting there? Was it some validation thing for a group? Like, oh, I got to do it myself. Like, what was that?
I think it was the fear of asking for help. So I think, a pressure, because like my dad was my rugby coach, but it also came with a lot of pressure. So like when there's pressure and expectation around that, the fear of letting them down, or fear of failure, being like, I let them down, without having the support emotionally. Because I never seen my dad be emotional. I've never seen him express his feelings or anything like that. So I feel like I couldn't express my feelings to anyone around me. And that weight would get so heavy that the expectation and the pressure, I'd just be like shut down almost. I'd want to ask. I remember times wanting to ask questions, but I'd feel like this huge thing like come over me, like, don't ask, don't ask, don't ask. And it was some weird feelings. And I notice with my communication and speaking sometimes is that I mumble a little bit. And I feel like that mumbling was just like, I wanted to say something, but I didn't, because if I said something, I didn't want to let someone down, or I didn't want to feel like I was failing or anything like that.
Whoa. Like, how does that make you feel? Like when you're with your dad?
Disconnected, certainly disconnected. It's like, because I guess when you're young, you sort of look to your role models, which at the time it's your father or the people that are around you, and not being connected or understood, I guess you could say. It was quite hard and
Yeah,
heavy.
I think it's like actually so common as well. Like so common, because I see it happen so much, of men just being like, well, my dad was that guy that was head down, ass up, get to work, fuck your emotions. You don't need them. Don't feel them. At the same time, what that created a side effect was like they would put themselves in a hero position.
Mm.
Do what I say. Do what I do. Don't do as I act. Make sure you do what I say so that you can blah, 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 blah. And that creates all this like pressure put on someone. Can you relate to that? And how common do you think that is with like people that you know?
Yeah, so common. And especially in our culture as well, being Māori and from New Zealand, it's like, that's the thing. There's this like Once We Were Warriors movie, which is like a New Zealand iconic movie, which is about a guy being aggressive towards his wife and stuff like that, listen to what I say, do what I do, sort of thing, which is like real interesting, because we have beliefs around certain things when we're growing up. And it's like a belief that you don't say anything, you just do what you're told. But yeah, there's so many people that I think feel that. Obviously I can only speak from my experience, but just having conversations, it's like, I think it's really common, is just like really trying to live your life in accordance to how your parents would like you to live your life, rather than the life that you want to live.
Yeah, right. Because like we got to break that. And we got to break that because it's so much more like powerful on the other side.
Yeah.
How did you like? Is there any specific scenarios, or is there a moment when you sort of been like, "Yep, I'm gonna break that? I don't know if it was in the community or it was on
Mm.
your own doing something else. Like you actually will be like, oh, this is different. I'm gonna shift this now and really start to be so much more unique and authentic in exactly what I do and do what I love.
Yeah, I don't think I think there's been many situations that have led me to that point. Because I think some people have like certain moments, but I think it's been a series of moments, whether it's been conversations with my dad and stuff like that, where just been like asking the question, like, what was the life that you saw for me? And then like explaining to him my life that I see for myself and how different that is. So that was like, because that's scary, because it's like you want to make your parents proud, but at the same time, you just don't feel, you feel emptiness and like, man, that's not a life that I want to live. But actually having that conversation or asking that questions is like, what was the life that you saw for me? And then hear him explaining his life that he would see for me, and then me explaining my life and what I see for me are different, and helping them understand as well. I think once he understood, because sometimes again, coming back to having those conversations or asking, I was afraid to, but now helping him understand, he was like, oh, you know what? Like, thank you for like letting me know or helping me understand, because that's not what I thought that was your life or the path that you wanted to take. So again, it always comes back to conversations and having those hard conversations.
And communication's key. Like it's crazy how so easily it can get blocked, and how like with such simple little things that we can say and mention to some people can just drastically change. And like how we there's so many conversations that we want to have or things that we want to communicate, but then we just avoid it.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's really so simple, but it's the hardest thing for sure.
Yeah, I agree big time. So what else? What are some other things that you have like learned, applied, some things that you've done like recently that you're proud of, or something that you have learned that has, opened up your mind or changed your perception?
Um, Before like joining Set the Standard and doing the all-in program and stuff like that, I felt like I had physical energy because I've always been relatively in good shape, but I never really stood like mental energy or emotional energy. And like obviously being in the community and stuff like that, understanding like they're all like resources of energy, and distraction, and all these things drain your mental energy. A lack of clarity drains your mental energy. Not having those conversations drain you emotionally, and like wondering why like you can be in good shape, but if you can still feel like super drained, it's like, how can someone that's supposed to be fit and healthy still have so much low energy? And then until I understood like there's mental energy and emotional energy, discovering all those things that are, weighing me down or draining of energy, whether it's certain relationships or certain environments, like until you recharge yourself from those mental energies, which we spoke on the masterclass last night, I was like, it's just so much more than just like being physically in shape. It's actually all these other things that holistically like create all this energy. So like that was one thing I was like, man, I've always been in great shape, but I've always felt like I've had no energy or just wanted to get up and go, and like having purpose in your day. It's like now, like I want to jump in the cold shower. Like I want to get up and go. Like I never thought you could actually have this much energy or just have the capacity to do more just because you're unaware. So having that self-awareness, which obviously you speak about a lot in the program, has created so much more energy in life, like actually having the resources to do something. Because it's like, you can't do anything more or you can't create anything with and not have energy. Like your capacity has to increase to be able to bring these things into your life. So that was, I think, the main thing, and understanding that has been a big shift for me mentally and emotionally. Anyway, those have been really big keys for me.
Oh, that's so cool. So cool. And legit because it's happening in real life. So because of those things, how has that influenced or impacted you like in real life? Like what are the real time moments that have been influenced due to learning all of that? What impacts has it made?
Biggest impacts obviously stay in the coaching business, helping others understand that as well. Doing podcasts, being able to connect with people and have conversations with that. So it's literally given me the ability to reach out and ask people like, hey, do you think you could come on the podcast and share your value? And just being able to put that energy into things that fill me with energy as well, like helping people fulfill their health and fitness goals gives me energy. So it's like, I guess you could say like reciprocal, like energy, what you give to others will come back. And the more you give, obviously, the, I guess, more eventually will come back to you. So that's the impact that's really made for me. And then on my relationships as well, like I can connect better. Obviously, doing manifest your dream partner now with in my new relationship, we have so much better connection, and those repeated patterns in other relationships don't come up now. So it's like everything. And the thing that always reminds me, and you say it all the time, is like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that self-awareness and just capacity and energy floods into the rest of your life as well, like your relationships, your health and stuff like that. So those are the big impacts because they mean the most to me. My relationships mean the most to me, friends, etc. And then obviously helping others fulfill their health and fitness goals fills with the energy as well. So those are some really big impacts for me.
Yeah, that's so cool. How what made you, by the way, what made you click on the like dream partner exercise? What was happening with that? And you tell me the story because it's like it's happened like it's actually happened so many times now. People that have like done that exercise. So I'd love to know like your experience with that.
Um, yeah, like it was pretty nonchalant because I was looking for the like, what do I do? What do I do first? Where do I start? And it was literally just the first thing that I clicked on.
Yeah.
And I just clicked on it and I was like, okay, sweet. And then because you ran through it and then I did it and I was just like, again, it comes back to when it's just like it actually in that moment, like what do you actually want in a partner? What do you value? And just having that and having that framework just allow me to have conversations with people or meet people that were doing those sort of things or were in that mindset as well. So like it's kind of hard to describe it, but it was, again, it just comes back to awareness. Like I was now aware of what I wanted in a partner. So I could see that in the other person. If they didn't have those traits, it wasn't that I didn't like you, but it was just like, you're just not the person for me because that's not what I value. So it's like those two combinations, yeah, just helped me sift through the things that weren't and align with me, and obviously bring in the things that were aligned with me as well. So, yeah, that was the main. I guess you could say by chance, but at the same time, is like, um, yeah,
But it's like
no,
it's
that,
not. Like it's not by chance. Because I feel like when you also write out like your ideal partner, this is even like for people to do in relationships, is actually writing everything out in your ideal partner and not having the person, you know, your partner in your mind when you write it out. And then like you read that out to your partner, and then it's like, cool, like I didn't understand that you wanted this, and this is how you want. Now we can have a conversation around like what we can do to make sure that we can fulfill the needs of
yeah,
both of these people. But it's funny because it's like when you actually do write it out when you are single, you're like, oh, I'm actually motivated to go get this person now. Like, so you have this different energy. We're like,
yeah,
oh, I want to go out and actually like get this person. And it's just awesome that you did that.
yeah.
Yeah, real cool. So what else have you sort of been learning, growing through and going through recently, which is, you know, helping you become a better person?
Yeah.
Because pretty nuts. Like just as like put in your like journey, it's like, you know, after you come to the community, it was like started a podcast, started your biz, got your partner, started crushing it. You've been putting all your energy into meeting people, connecting people, breaking through stuff in your family. breaking through stuff with like friend groups and things. I'm like, Ethan, you have been on the ball.
Yeah. Wow, that's so, and so yeah, that's really interesting because it's like everything does move pretty fast, and it's hard to like sometimes sit down and be like, just this is actually what you've done, and which brings up a really big realization. It's like knowing how far you've come as well, like that's a lot. And for someone that I'm not a very fast learner, I can be honest with that and be like, sometimes I have to go over a few things again just to really grasp it. So sometimes comprehending stuff I can struggle with, but that's okay. Like that, if that's going to be my pace of life, then I'm okay with that as long as I'm learning the things. But yeah, it's like it's it's a lot. That's a lot for me. Starting a podcast, a business, still working, the partner, like integrating all these things into my life and not letting them crash and burn. Like that can be quite hard. Like, so it's really being mindful and aware of like if like in my relationship or with coaching, like am I still taking care of myself, making sure that I have the capacity to do so? So that's been a real main factor is like, am I taking care of my health? Am I taking care of my performance? Those sort of things. So it's like, I wouldn't say I've been learning, but I've been integrating these new things that are in my life. So yeah, I think that's really important for me and making sure I'm learning in accordance to where I'm at on my journey as well. Because I think different seasons require different learnings, I feel. And if I can do that and integrate the right learnings, then I'm going to be okay and I'm going to be good. So yeah, like I guess the learning is learning how to integrate.
And what was that process like for you?
Messy.
Tell me about the messiest moment. Tell me when you're like, oh, this is messy right now.
Man, the last couple of weeks, because I've had podcasts, I've had people book podcasts, rescheduling, clients dropping off, trying to get back in touch with them, still doing the podcast, still taking care of my health, like those sort of like organization has been real messy. So it's just like, damn, like what do we need to focus on the most right now? So yeah, that's when I know like, okay, let's get the frame of like what we're trying to do, what are the most important tasks, and focus on those. So that's sort of been sort of the reset right now is what do we need to focus on the most?
And how has your mindset like had your back?
Resilience, like even some of in the program and stuff like the hero's journey, I always go back to it. And it's like, I think you mentioned something recently. It's like, there's a guardian at the door. Like you have to meet that person and like fight him and slam just to get through that gate. And you have to be there, but you have to be in it. You have to be aware. Like it's not easy. So you're always going to meet these doors that you have to, unlock or break down to get through that. So it's like having a mind frame of like, this is what hard feels like. And that's what it's supposed to feel like as well.
Yeah. And it's getting you ready for the next test. Like that's what the guardian at the gate's for, especially if it's business, relationships, whatever it is. It's like there's always a guardian there, which is like, okay, I've got to cross this guardian to get into the next realm. It's like when you're playing video games and there'd be like a guardian somewhere before you get into the certain level. And it's like, sometimes if you like you only just bet the guardian and then you get into the next level of like the dungeon or whatever it is, the game you're playing or Pokemon, then you go in there, you got all these strong as level people. You're like, shit, I'm going to go out there and level up. But it's not really like that in life too much because it's like, there's only so much leveling up you can do. Sometimes you have to throw yourself. It's sort of like, I heard someone's quote, I think it was Toby Pierce. He was like, sometimes it's like you got to throw you and your team off a cliff and then build the plane on the way down. And it's like, you do that when, you're around high quality people, you're surrounded by like-minded people who can push your limits. It's like that when you're learning, integrating and talking and communicating. And I know that I find like a lot of people get down and depressed just because they're not like, haven't got people to lift them up. Right. Yeah. So like, that's a whole part of the journey is doing that and like understanding like, hey, this is a guardian. I'm going to defeat it. I'm going to get into the next level for everything that's happening. And I know that when I pass this gate, the whole journey is just filled with monsters. But I have the skills, the capability, the people around me to attack every single one so that I can get to where I want to go. Because when I get to the end of the game or I get the golden trophy or whatever it is, it's going to feel so goddamn good.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, I feel that. And there's, I remember on the like first call that we had, and you're like, be ready to like catch the like relapse or something like that. And I didn't really know what you meant. I was just like, oh, what does he mean by that? And I got off the call, and then I got into the program, and I was just like, it was like hot and heavy, and you're like learning all these different things, and it's like you start to get broken down like emotionally because you're on those accountability calls and stuff like that, and the boys are calling you forward on certain things, and you're like, oh fuck. And then I just remember I was like, this is what he meant by catch relapse. Is just like real hot and heavy. You have to be able to go through that. So like that was really good for me to understand that as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love it. So yeah, I call them catch the relapse or catch the collapse is whatever I say. It's like you'll go for a moment of growth whenever you join a program or something else and you're in it. And next minute, especially when it comes to your own personal growth, you got to break down before you get to the breakthrough. So it's interesting, like when you had that moment happen and you're like, oh, I'm literally in the relapse collapse stage. I got to capture this moment because I want to run away, want to hide, like I'm breaking down, whatever it is. And it's like, no, there's just like, this is like, you know, the birth of the new flower that comes out after you've just like planted the seed in the soil. It's like that moment where it, you know, finally comes out. But it's like, oh shit, I've just stripped away the garden and stripped away the dirt. And now I've planted the seed and now I'm ready for a new one to come back up.
Yeah. 100%.
Which is crazy. It's crazy that like you had to go through that. Tell me a little bit more about like what that was actually like for you.
What was it like? So
like they tell me the story of, you know, what happened, who'd you talk to? Like, because I think this should be really beneficial because like so many people I find get into a position where they are going through a collapse, right? But they don't know it. And then it's like, oh, hey, man, like you need to do this, or hey, man, just calling you forward that this thing's happening. And you're like, shit, I'm going through something right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And people like, you know, extract the best self out of you. So I'd love to hear the story of it.
It was, so I was probably from what I remember recently, it was like a call with Glenn. And we were talking about, again, coming back to asking and stuff like that. And he actually like challenged me to like do some rejection therapy.
Oh,
He's like, I never liked saying like, I didn't like the idea of being
a dick
or like being rejected and stuff like that. So he's like, man, you just need to be in there. Like I challenge you to do some things where you're going to get no's and stuff like that. So actually sending like messages of like requests and seeing if like people say no and actually enjoying that, being like, yes, I got a no, or I got rejected, like actually being like, that's actually part of building it. So like, I think that was really one of me is like, man, I challenge you to do that. And I was just like, okay, yeah, sweet. But like, it was a weird concept of being like, yes, I got like rejected. And it just helps with the, not soothing, but like understanding like this is all part of what you're doing, especially with like in business and like calls and stuff like that. Is like, these are the things that will help you understand that, you know, no is not a failure. It's an opportunity for a yes, if you send enough messages.
All right. How cool is that? And then what is that giving you? What impact is that?
Yeah, it's confidence, self-belief. And that's the thing, like it's hard to be confident if you've always gotten a yes. Confidence is actually built from the rejection, not success.
Yeah, I love that. That's like I haven't heard it put in that way before. I think that's amazing.
Because it's like, yeah, that's the same thing for me. I was just like, confidence isn't actually built from success. It's actually built from the rejections or the no's to the success. So that's something that really sticks with me as well. So yeah, it's all these like mind frames that you can understand things better.
Yeah. Because one definition of confidence is it's like the ability to fail and keep moving forward. It's
Yeah,
like just with this
yeah, I've heard that before as
unwavering,
well.
yeah, like with this unwavering belief to keep pushing forward. Like that is one definition of confidence. So
Yeah, because I think I heard Tom Bilyeu say is like confidence is going from failure to failure and not losing enthusiasm.
yeah, it's crazy, right? From what it takes to build your confidence. Because if you're getting yeses all the time, or there's something else happening, and then something happens to you in the real world, whatever it is, and it's like, you know, you do get distracted, or something tempts you and you become like tempted, or you get like focused on a goal or a different mission, or something comes up, or you find this friendship group that you're seeking validation from. And for some reason, it pops up in front of your life. Next minute, it's like you do that for enough months, confidence gone. Like I find confidence, you got to be working at it all the time.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. So like what do you do now to keep yourself updated, upregulated, so you can go and crush it?
Yeah, health always. Doing the practices that help me mentally and emotionally stay clear. Well, not so much stay clear, but making sure that I can understand myself and awareness of how I'm showing up in each part of my life. You know, I'm a partner, I'm a business owner, like I coach people, I'm also a son, like all these different things. Like I do all these things because like most people, like we all are doing things that we have to show up and be the best version of ourselves in each place. And if I can't take care of myself, I don't have that capacity, then no one else will be able to do that as well. So yeah, really focusing on making sure that I understand like where I'm at in terms of all those things. And then really trying to enjoy it, because it's like, as much as it is hard and it's confronting, like it's also enjoyable. Like this is the life that I get to live, and these are the things that I get to do. So it's like, enjoy that. Why not? Why can't you enjoy it? Why not have the most amount of energy? Why not give as much as you can? So it's like, if I can do that, then I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to, you know, enjoy that fulfillment and all those things that come with it and stuff like that. So it's like really being intentional with how I spend my energy and what fills me with energy as well.
Show me how good life can get, baby.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, it's almost, yeah, 100%. It's like when you open the curtains in the morning and the sun's shining in, it's like, wow, this is how beautiful it can be. So yeah, really
Yeah,
fun.
I love it. I want to know, this is like an interesting concept. All right. I want to know your opinion on this. What do you think the difference is between like the stigma of an alpha man and then what a true alpha man is?
That's a really good question. It's really interesting. So like for me, it's not forceful, it's intentional. It's because it's, so like two words actually come up with for me when I think of that. And like alpha male is like, it's very grandiose, it's forceful, it's powerful, which are good traits to have. But for me, like being masculine or alpha male is, it's graceful for me. A word for me that comes up is graceful. It's you go about leading the way through your actions and letting those speak for yourself. But yeah, it's like I personally don't think about that too much, because my responsibility as a man is through my intention, not so much of I need to be this person or be that person. If I'm just being myself and leading myself through my actions, then that's alpha male, or it's masculine. That's masculine to me. It's not a certain, I have to be this or that. It's just, I have to be myself and my highest version of myself. And that's alpha or it's masculine to me.
Yeah, I feel like that's where the real winning is done. If you look at like just through history and other things, if you're being that dominating force, it's like that's the vibes of like the great conquerors, you know, of old that everyone hated. Like,
Sure.
like some great conquerors that like people really didn't like, who tried to push their agenda and change things, and people would war against them because they were doing like stupid shit. It's really interesting in terms of like, you know, the alpha male leader who is the one who can remain calm, who can give love and inspire people by being the best version of themselves and having self-control and willpower and not being reactive, and can influence people with just how they speak and how they talk about what they do, instead of being like, oh no.
Yeah.
I find
And that's actually a really good that's something I came across. I can't remember who said it, but it's like go to war during the day and then come home and make love at night. Like that really sums it up. It's like, you know, whatever your purpose is, go chase that and with everything that you've got, and then come home and share that love with the people that mean the most to you. And it's like, it's actually both. So yeah, that's sort of a mind frame that like makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah, I really like David Dyer's approach on that. His is basically like fuck the world and fuck your girl and open them up into love. Like 100%. You want to penetrate the world with your purpose as hard as you can, and you want to penetrate your girl and make her surrender into love, and do both with both of them. You can go out there and ravage the world and ravish your girl, and that just fires me up. I go like, yes. Especially like, you know, just having like moments like as a guy when you've got like tasks to crush, you know, gym to perform, and like you're going like your absolute hardest. It just like feels so good. And I feel like we need that. However, without, you know, I would say like emotional intelligence, self-control, strong willpower, having our own set of values instead of the people who are above us, we believe, having their values instead, you know, and creating unique individuals. I believe is just like a personal way. It's like, I believe that's how we like literally like make a change happen to culture, is by having more people have their own, you know, distinct set of values, and, you know, understanding each other's values and being able to work through them together, and separating your own. Or if you are, you know, a part of a group and you guys do have similar values, it's because of choice, not because of you didn't choose that.
Yeah. I think that's a powerful word, is choice. It's like people in the set the standard community, like they're there by choice. They're not there. They're there because they understand that we are all unique, but through learning through others, which may have the same problems, you can create more unique within yourself. And that's the thing, like I've not that I try to be different or unique. It's like I'm more of that because just by choice of, again, being around people that are the same as well, but in their own way.
Yeah, I choose me, baby. And you bastards.
That are like getting at me and calling me out.
What was like, just like, I'm completely curious, what for you was like probably your most uncomfortable moment when you were like in the community, where you were called out or something was happened to like move you forward, when you were like, oh God, we're going here? And like, what was that breakthrough for you? Do you remember the moment?
It was probably actually last night in the masterclass, when there was like, if you was something that negatively affected you 5 years ago or 15 years ago or something like that, which was like really hard because you have a lot of shame and guilt around it. But it was actually cheating on my first relationship. And that's something that, because you always think you're not that kind of person, etc. And then if you do something like that, it's like, whoa, who am I? And you hold on so much guilt and shame. And it was something that I actually found repeated in relationships, which now I was able to express that, and I was actually able to explain to her like the way I felt and what may have caused that. And she actually understood that and was like, no, like, thank you for sharing with that. So it's like, whoa, all that guilt and shame, it's like, if you express that, people will actually support you and be like, yeah, I understand. Like, we all make mistakes, and you can allow yourself to speak to that as well.
It's crazy because, especially when something like that happens, because like, just to like break that down a little bit, it's like, well, if you're in a relationship and you cheat, now you immediately assume no one's going to love you ever again, like, because you've cheated on someone. How can someone ever love you? So like, it gets completely like stuffed down. And especially if you're doing it when you were younger or in a really bad place, most of the times it was with a partner where it was both so toxic and you both really didn't like each other anyway at the time. And when you have a new partner and like you're in a relationship and you tell them with confidence and you're honest and you're open about that, and they still love you anyway, like one, you're like, you're my goddamn person. Like, by the way, you're my goddamn person. Two, it's like, yeah, it's so much more confidence in you because obviously you're never going to do it again because it was so crazy and it took so much courage to tell like your person that. And then three, you feel so much more connected and so like so much more love. And then all that guilt and shame just like, woof, is like gone. And you're like, I didn't even know I was holding that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, yeah, so interesting. It's almost like the two people after that I dated or whatever, it's like in the back of my mind, I was just like, don't get too attached because you're going to fuck it up.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
can't trust yourself.
trust yourself. So it's like, until you do trust yourself, then you can almost have the courage to speak to that. So, yeah, it's one of those things. It's almost like the things that we feel like are our darkest like demons are also the things that people connect with as well. Like it's like that thing that you need to share might just be the thing that actually bring you closer.
Every time, man. It's like that's when you lean into when you stare into the abyss stares back into you of
Yeah.
like whatever that looks like and whatever that is.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? And like what like an awesome topic to talk about because I believe it's so relevant and it's so true because like you get back to it, it's like, well, how do you even trust yourself? You can ask that question. And it's like it's interesting that it took you like all set the standard, all the rest of like all the things that you've gone through in terms of like mindset, health, learning, talking to so many guys. You've done so much learning, growing and evolving, getting the uncomfortable, like shit. All these guys are like raising my standards, the rest of it. And then to getting to last night where you're like, whoa, this hit me. Telling my partner, she forgive me. For I feel so clean right now.
Yeah, and it gives you energy. Like just moving lightly, just it's so much easier. It's more. It just creates a flow that that you want to live in as much as you can. So,
What other stuff? Just out of curiosity, have you let anything else go? Like in the last few months, is there anything else that's come up that you're like, whoo, I told him some shit on there. Let that go.
yeah. Um, Not off the top of my head. Not that I can, yeah, not that I think that really stands out anyway. Um, nah, like I guess a little thing would be like I'm naturally like a perfectionist like most of us, and it's like being able to tell someone it's like I'm not perfect, like I make mistakes, um and but you'll get my time and effort. So I guess somewhat like being able to break through that and not trying to be the perfect person but actually
Yeah.
letting people know like, hey, I'm gonna fuck up, like I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'm gonna put in my time and effort um to ensure that I don't make mistakes or make less fuck ups. But
Yeah.
that's part of the learning curve. So just letting go of trying to be someone or not, like making sure that I'm aligned with who I genuinely am.
Yeah. And like getting rid of unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves in order to fit in or to feel good enough or something like that, which I assume is probably some stuff that, come from your dad when you were younger before you had some
Yeah,
pretty crazy conversations.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it's cool.
Dude, I love that. Well, for everyone who is listening, man, where can they find you?
Right now you can find me at Ethan Brady Coaching on Instagram. Also Self Architecture Club podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. Got another podcast coming up soon as well. So yeah, and I appreciate you coming on my one, bro. Like it's so cool to, like I said, having conversation with people doing amazing things and helping people around them be the best version of themselves. So those are two places that, yeah, you can find me. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on your podcast. We had an absolute blast. That podcast was nuts that we did with Ethan. So everyone who's listening, please check that out. And also, I like to leave the listeners with a challenge. So if you would like to challenge the listeners, there's like one challenge like out of today's conversation, what would it be?
So the challenge would be go back to the most recent and darkest moment you had and write that down, and then revisit that darkest moment in the morning and realize that the sun is still going to rise the next day. So yeah, write that challenge down, put it next to your bed, wake up the next day, go back and reread that, and just realize that everything's going to be the way it needs to be, and that no matter how hard things get, the next day is going to rise and the sun is going to rise. So yeah, I challenge people to get deep in that and enjoy that.
Yeah, which is sick. Absolutely love that. And Ethan is like a really high quality health and fitness coach, which, you know, he's got so much years of experience with rugby and all the rest of it. So if you're curious on someone who can combine like all the mindset stuff that we learned in Set the Standard and also combine like health and fitness as well, like then Ethan is your guy. So please reach out to him for that. And for everyone who is listening to this, also please chuck us a follow, like, subscribe, share all the things. Would absolutely appreciate that. And Ethan, thank you so much for coming onto the show today.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother.